to your mathematical model for how that works, the sort of your team plus equals a leadership person, should that be plus or multiplied? So is it each person is addition to each other, or are they multiplied? Because that can help you go, if you have a person who's actually taking down the team and they're a 0.5 value, like, does that actually take things down? So I don't know, just rang in my head, like, these are additional, but I'm like, are they additions or are they multiplied?
That's a really good question. I've never looked at it in that framework. What I will do, so part of the CEO scorecard that we build out is we've got this algorithm that we designed that there's a separate tab that is for team performance, and everybody on the team is enlisted on that tab, and they're only given 2 scores: either met expectations or fell below expectations. And so what happens is you look at everybody on the team and you get a grade, right? Or the company gets a grade. And if you're at 80%, that means that only 80% of the team is actually meeting expectations. Now, the reality is if 80% of the team is meeting expectations, the company is still probably doing pretty good. It's probably growing, but maybe not growing all that fast. Probably a few little bumps in the road, but things are okay. You shouldn't be losing sleep at night. Once you start falling below 80%, now, your stress levels are going to be high. It's probably a little bit more dependence on you and a few key people. There's some vulnerability when it comes to sales and lead flow and churn and all that other stuff, right? So, you don't want to be a C. A C in a grade is not that good, right? And then you can also look back at it and say, who are the managers of these people? And how long have the people reporting up to the managers been operating in a red metric and underperforming? And then you begin to see how effective the managers are in their role as well. So, it's a really cool illustration.
Wouldn't someone say, well, like, the scoring is somewhat dependent on who writes the test? In other words, like, what if I want to make myself feel good about my company, so I'm going to make the grades easy. So my grading curve is a very easy one. So yes, we're hitting 80%, and like, we have an okay company. Whereas other people might say, I'm a hardcore and no one's hitting my targets at all, and my whole team sucks.
Great question. So we frame the metrics in what we call the AIM framework. Now, to give credit where credit's due, I originally heard of this framework from a gentleman called Ofer Breyer, a really intelligent gentleman out of Israel. Shared just a really, really cool concept with me that I'm like, I like this. So it's AIM. And it's broken down, if you think AIM like a target, right? So A is for achievable, I is for ideal, and M is for minimum. And so when you create a KPI, let's say you have a KPI that you need to bring in, say, $100,000 in sales per month, right? Let's just say that's a KPI, easy math. So you're going to say, all right, if it's $100,000, then I'm going to take 10 to 20% of that number, and that's going to be the minimum. So we'll create a little bit of a range, and we'll say, okay, so 80,000. So achievable is what you should be hitting, most of the time, but 80% of the time you should be hitting your achievable. And then you have minimum, which is 20% lower. So you've got 80,000. And then you have an ideal, which is about 10 to 20% higher. So let's say that's 120,000. So within that range, when you bring somebody onto the team, you're saying, look, if for whatever reason you fall below this minimum threshold, it automatically triggers a PIP. It automatically triggers a performance investment plan, if that's the word you tend to use, right? So we already have an agreement. You fall below the minimum, you go on a PIP. When we talk about the team performance tab that we were talking about earlier, if they fall below achievable, then they're not meeting expectations. So we don't have this ambiguity or this variation. In fact, one of the things, so I've had several mentors throughout my life. One of the people who had a lot of influence on the way that we build and grow companies is a gentleman named Dr. W. Edward Deming. He's added more billions of dollars to process improvement that I've known to have ever lived before, ever. I never worked directly with Deming, but I worked with Deming's protege. And we not only was he a mentor, and we did some business together as well. And then Deming's business partner ended up becoming a client of mine. And so, I became very, very intertwined with Deming and understanding that work. And when you're surrounded in that world, one of the things that you quickly learn is that variation is the enemy of excellence. That you need to minimize, if not eliminate, variation. You're gonna have some, right? And so, when you look at most companies, their guardrails are wide open, if they even have guardrails, right? It's just, you hire one person, they do something a little different than another person, and there's variation all over the place. But then as you begin to build better systems and processes and training, those guardrails begin to start to close in a little bit. Now, when you're running an agency and maybe you have a little bit more creativity and whatnot, you want to keep it just wide enough that allows people to still have some flexibility, but not too wide where it's going to impact the client and your business itself.